Hi again. We're talking about dividing rational numbers today, which again is very similar to multiplying rational numbers, except for we're doing the operation of division. Again, we're combining topics 5.3 and 5.4 together, which was dividing integers and dividing rational numbers. Rational numbers, again, are fractions, decimals, whole numbers, integers, zero, so forth. So the rules are exactly the same when you're dividing rational numbers, that if you have different signs, your answer will be negative, and if you have the same signs, your answer will be positive. And again, these work with both integers and rational numbers. So please remember those rules after going through the homework. People are still not paying attention to those rules. Example number 1 is asking us to place each quotient at its value on the number line, or leave it behind if it is an undefined expression. We will talk about what undefined expression means. So if we go through and we look here, we've got 0 divided by negative 3. 0 divided by negative 3 would give me 0, so I'm going to put that on the spot right here. Negative 27 divided by negative 9. A negative divided by a negative will give me a positive, so that gives me positive 3. So I will put negative 27 divided by negative 9 here. We keep going through. Negative 22 divided by 11. Negative divided by a positive will give me a negative. So that's negative 22 divided by 11. It goes at negative 22. Or excuse me, negative 2. 48 divided by negative 12. Positive divided by a negative. Again, gives us a negative. So I'll place at negative 4. Negative 10 divided by 2. A negative divided by a positive gives us a negative. And again, 10 divided by 2 is 5, so it's negative 5. 18 divided by 0. Now, what I'd like you to do is, if you get a calculator, I know you're not supposed to have one, but I'll show you here. If you do 18 divided by 0, your calculator will say many things. Some of it will actually say cannot divide by 0. Some will say error. Some will say, not valid. But it is not an answer. It's undefined. So I'm going to circle this one and I'm going to write undefined. You cannot define dividing a number by 0. It's not logical. Negative 20 divided by negative 4. Negative divided by a negative gives us a positive, and that gives us 5. 8 divided by 4, positive divided by a positive, so it gives us a positive. So that's 2. And again, negative 10 divided by 0. You cannot divide a number by 0. You cannot split something up into 0 groups, so it is undefined. This next box is very similar to what we talked about yesterday, that you can rewrite any negative number as the product of negative 1 and a positive number. This allows you to rewrite any rational number as the quotient of two integers. So what they are showing you here is that if you have negative 3/4, if you move this negative sign to in front of 3/4, it technically is saying negative 1. So they're saying, oh, we can now pop that negative 1, we can write that as divided by 1, and I can now multiply negative 1 times 3 to negative 3/4. And so again, so that negative is hanging out with the 3. Now, in this other scenario, it looks very similar, except for this time, they're putting the negative 1 in the bottom, and so now the negative ends up in the bottom here. So again, you can write it as 3 divided by negative 4. So this is identical, except for now they're using letters, variables, to show that the negative can be hanging out in the front, it can be hanging out in front of the P, or it can hang out in front of the Q in the denominator. But I want you to notice they are stating that Q cannot be 0, because you cannot divide a number by 0, you will get undefined. The next examples on the next page are just practice, so go ahead, practice those. Pause the video. Just want to remind you, we are not using calculators again in this topic. We need to make sure we know how to multiply and divide numbers without the use of the calculator. Go ahead, check your answers. Then we're moving on to our vocabulary word reciprocals, which again, you guys have seen reciprocals. We talked about this last year when we talked about dividing fractions. The technical definition is two numbers whose product is 1 makes those numbers reciprocals. So 1/2 times 2 equals 1. Half of 2 is 1. Negative 2/3 times, I want you to notice the reciprocal is also negative. 3 halves would equal 1, because if you went through and cross-canceled, 1, 1, 1, 1, negative times a negative gives you a positive. So they are showing you here that you have P divided by Q, the reciprocal would be Q divided by P. And if you had a negative P divided by Q, your reciprocal would be negative Q divided by P. So number 2, what they're asking us to do here is to cross out each choice that is not the reciprocal of the number. So negative 7/4, well, if it's negative to start, the reciprocal cannot be positive, so that's how I know that those two won't work. So that's how I know my answer will be negative 4/7. So continue that on for the remaining 4. All right, go ahead, check your answers. And hopefully for the last one, you noticed that if you needed to change the whole mixed number to an improper fraction in order to find the reciprocal, you cannot just take the 2/3 and find the reciprocal as 3 halves. And you will get negative 3/5. Remember, if the reciprocal is negative, or number is negative to start, the reciprocal will also be negative. So here's a question some of you might have been just staying up at night wondering about. Does 0 have a reciprocal? No, 0 does not have a reciprocal. Since 0 equals 0 divided by 1, because you can place any whole number over 1, the reciprocal of 0 would be 1, 0. However, we've just said that you cannot divide by 0, so 0 does not have a reciprocal. Also, the product of a number and its reciprocal must be 1, but the product of 0 and any number A is 0. So when I'm saying any number A is 0, I could say 4 times 0 is 0, or even negative 4 times 0 is still 0. So since I can never multiply and multiply anything by 0 and get 1, it doesn't have a reciprocal. Next it says dividing a number by 3 and multiplying a number by 1/3 give the same result. The same is true if 3 and 1/3 are negative. So what they're saying to you is that if you take 15 and divide it by 3, you get 5. If you also multiply the 15 by the reciprocal of 3, which is 1/3, you will also get 5, because if you put 15 over 1, you could cross-cancel and you get 5 and 1. That should look familiar to what you did last year. So on the next page, again, this is something you guys saw last year, which you actually called SIR. And I'm not a big fan of SIR because you need to make sure that you understand that means save, inverse, reciprocal. To divide by a fraction, you end up multiplying by its reciprocal. So 7/8 stays the same. You do not change the first fraction. If you do, you will get the wrong answer. The first fraction stays the same. I changed the division to multiplication.
If you're in the building.
Sorry about that. Then you change 3/4 to 4/3. It's reciprocal. You multiply them out. Check to see if you can do any cross-canceling. And on this one, I can cross-cancel the 8 and the 4. And I would get an answer of 7/6, which I would then change to 1 and 1/6. If it says simplify, then they want you to rewrite your answer as a mixed number. So get into that habit. So number 3, I'll do the first one with you. They're asking you to circle the equivalent multiplication expression for each division expression. So the first term, remember, is always going to stay the same. So we have negative 1/9 divided by 7/18. So negative 1/9, this one right here is negative 1/9, this one is negative 9, so that one won't work. And the third one is negative 1/9. So again, now we're looking to see which ones show multiplication. The first row is showing multiplication with an x. Then the reciprocal of 7/18 is not negative 7/18, it should be 18/7. So your answer will be negative 1/9 times 18/7. So again, please go through and try the remaining 3 questions. Okay, again, check over your answers. I like to cross them off and circle them so it really makes it obvious which one is the correct answer. Okay, first term always stays the same. Do not change that first term. This is very similar to our subtraction of integers. When you had negative 4 minus 3, the first term stayed the same, so it stayed negative 4. The subtraction becomes its inverse operation, which was addition, and the 3 now becomes a negative 3. So be careful that reciprocal is different than opposite. So our next couple examples here, I'm just trying to show you the different ways that they can be written. If you wanted to, you could divide these out using the LCM like we practiced in topic 1, but we are talking about how to divide numbers with SIR now. So I've got 1/8 divided by 4 halves, so the 1/8 stays the same. The division becomes multiplication, and the 4 halves becomes 2/4. Now, be careful when it comes to reducing. Do not cross cancel when it's in its division form still. And don't reduce 4 halves right now. And you will get the same answers, but I just don't want you to make mistakes. So you cross cancel when you have only a multiplication sign. So I can cross cancel the 8 and the 2, which will give me 4 and 1, to give me 1/16. And that will be my final answer. This next one, they're showing us it's a complex fraction. It's a fraction within a fraction. So I'm going to rewrite this. Instead of using my division bar here, I'm going to use the division sign, which will then become -5/4 times 4/1. Cross cancel both the 4's. I have -5 divided by 1, which is just the same thing as -5. Okay, flipping the paper over, I now have 2 mixed numbers that I am dividing. So I'm first going to rewrite them as improper fractions. Before you even start thinking about reciprocals, please write them as improper fractions. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 3 will give me 13/5. Leave it as division. 2 and 1/10. 2 times 10 is 20, plus 1 is 21, so we get 21/10. Again, do not cross cancel here. You need to first rewrite it as multiplication. You leave the first number the same, then change its second number to its reciprocal to give you 10/21. You cannot cross cancel with the 13 and the 21, but I can cross cancel with the 5 and the 10. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. 13 times 2 will give me 26. 1 times 21 is 21. Do not leave your final answer as an improper fraction, unless we're talking about your constant of proportionality. 21 goes into 26 one whole time. 1 times 21 is 21, so 26 minus 21 leaves me with a remainder of 5. So I have 1 and 5/21 is my answer. For the next one, go ahead and give that one a try on your own. Okay, please be very careful here. You have a negative times a negative, so your answer does end up being positive. You are placing this whole number of -4 over a 1. I'd like you to notice that the negative was the 4 at first, and when I rewrote it as a multiplication problem, now the 1 is holding the negative. It doesn't matter again. If you wanted to leave the negative with the 4, that's fine. And I get my final answer there. Number 4 says that on a research expedition, 3 oceanographers in a small submarine descend 4/5 miles per hour. The equation D equals -4/5 T gives the depth D in miles of a submarine at T hours. How long does it take the submarine to reach 2 2/3 miles below sea level? So I'd like you to notice that because it said descends 4/5 miles, that's why they have placed a -4/5 in our formula. We need to, if they are giving you a formula, you write the formula down. That's always the first thing that you should be doing if they're giving you a formula. Don't just try to substitute however you like. Write the formula. So after we write the formula, we need to decide what we have and what we don't have. So if they tell us how long does it take to the submarine to reach 2 2/3 miles, it sounds like I'm looking for the time, and that the 2 2/3 miles sounds like it is the depth. Now be careful here because it says 2 2/3 miles below sea level in words, and then when we look at our number line, notice that it is -2 2/3. Okay? So we're going to substitute -2 2/3 in place of our D, and then we have -4/5 T. I'm going to change -2 2/3 to an improper fraction, so that will give me -8/3 equals -4/5 T. And then this is where I have a fraction, and we've talked about how to simplify this before. We've said that you can now divide both sides by -4/5 to cancel out the coefficient in front of the variable. But we are talking about reciprocals in this question. If you multiply reciprocals and you always get 1, that's what I can do here. I can multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the coefficient. And the reciprocal of the coefficient would be negative 5/4. Sorry, I kind of stuttered there for a second. Negative 5/4, which I will do to both of those. So over here, the 5 and the 5, that will give me negative 1. The negative 4 and the negative 4 gives me negative 1. So negative times a negative gives me a positive, so I'm just left with t. Over here, I have a negative times a negative again, so those end up canceling out to give me positive. I can cross cancel the 8 and the 4, so that's negative 2 and 1. So I have negative 10 divided by 3, which will equal 3 and 1/3. Now that is not the only way to do that problem. You could have also divided both sides by negative 4/5 and then worked it out. Or you could even just multiply by the denominator and clear. If you have any questions, please be sure to ask me. Number 5 says that if the snow is falling 3/4 of an inch every hour, how long will it take for there to be 3 inches on the ground? So if we want 3 inches, it sounds like I would probably want to divide that by the 3/4 of inches per hour, because then the inches units cancel out. So this ends up becoming 3/1 divided by 3/4, which is the same thing as 3/1 times 4/3. Cross cancel, leaves me with 4, and my only unit back at the beginning was hours, so I get 4 hours. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and do number 6. It's very similar to number 4. All right, I got a final answer of 2 2/3 hours. I'd like you to just notice that I knew that in this question to give myself a little space right here, because I knew that I would end up multiplying by the reciprocal. So instead of having my fraction on the right side, I was able to leave room so that I had my fraction on the left, which just made it a little bit easier when I was cross canceling. All right, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow.